Okay, so we'll do like a Dean Clifford after-hours special or something. Unalienable means incapable of being aliened, that is sold and transferred. But somebody owns his name.
Yeah, that's what you were pointing out earlier, and on his video, all of his videos in his past, one of his biggest underlying themes is unalienable rights.
Right. And it's actually unalienable, incapable of being aliened, that is sold and transferred. But he doesn't own it. So he's not saying anything new.
Yeah, you're saying that basically his name already has a proprietary claim on it, and they can't be transferred, and they're saying, yeah, they're not going to transfer it away from themselves.
Right. So what's he doing? Nothing. He's doing the same thing that Donna Ray is doing. Do the UCC form and stamp on the back that you're a special deposit. That means that your deposit in their court is the same thing that they're doing when they go into court anyway, as a special deposit, general deposit, whatever else. It's not doing anything away from the system, and that's why Dean Clifford is just sitting there.
Yeah, and they need to do that now because we wiped the slate clean.
Right, the presumption is that humanity is living. They're not in the holding corporation.
They need to get more signups now.
Right, so you got Rod Class, Donna Ray, Dean Clifford, Santos Bat, Katie, Curtis Kallenbach is back on the scene telling people to shove themselves as deposits. You know, nobody's actually telling the truth here. And it's absolutely disgusting because more and more you see now, you know, these little guys, Rod Class, Dean Clifford, Curtis Kallenbach, all of these agents, they think they're safe. They just got a former Marine FBI agent congressman.
Grim.
And it's so funny because these idiots are still doing this and they're waving all those false flags. What are they accomplishing? Nothing. What do they have in their backgrounds? What's forcing them to do these things? There's something hung over their heads.
Then there's the private attorney general from Washington State.
Yep. Who's an FBI informant. Said he was a federal witness.
I want to say is that supremelaw.org or something is his website, isn't it? Yeah, I really couldn't get too far into this 50-minute video. I think I watched the first 5 or 10 minutes of it, but it's all the same stuff. I think they're just recycling some old material here. And with this new story then, this update number 6 with Darren Clifford and company. So obviously Darren Clifford must be his brother, and they must be both using their last names because they wouldn't have the same quote-unquote last name if they were using their proper names.
Right. So they're just salvage.
You know, it's so funny. They're so worried about all capitals name on the court documents. Right here on the website it says Darren Clifford in all caps, you know?
Right. Always. That one in Washington is Paul Andrew Mitchell.
Paul Andrew Mitchell, yes. Yeah, he's been on a few limited talk shows. Angela's had him, and he only comes on, you know, a few times. But he was on there, you know, he'd be on there for 3 or 4 hours.
Right. Well, when
Sometimes.
you go to his, search out Paul Andrew Mitchell and his, what do you call those, to get a job.
But yeah, either way, he's claiming the last name too. Right? He's not using the proper name.
Right. What do you call those things when people go to get a job?
Applications?
No, like an application. Thing that talks about the person getting the job.
Your W-9?
No. No. It's been years since I did one too. I haven't registered forever.
I'm not sure.
Not a cover letter, but the other thing that people give people when they
Resume.
Resume. Yeah, it says on his resume that he's a federal witness.
Right. And a private attorney general.
Right, a federal witness is an FBI informant. And that's like so sad.
So this update here from Dean Clifford, the discussion on the video involves Darren Clifford, Dean's brother, obviously, Chris Sosnowski, Dean's friend, and Paul Stein. We are changed Victoria and Dean's friend also. And the intro song, of course, is Gordon Lightfoot, Gotta Get Away.
Gosh. Got it. Well, it's better than the Banker song. I believe I can fly.
Yeah, We Are Changed. What do you think of that? That's a whole another spearheaded group.
It is. The whole
as well,
thing is
right?
just a bunch of, it's all a bunch of CIA presentations, and it really it asks the question, please patronize us. They have to have patriots now more than ever because everybody was taken out last year, and then the federal state, the fictions were all declared dead. Well, if you're claiming the last name and going in as a special deposit, you're saying I'm dead. So you're defeating the purpose. So there's a bunch of, they upped the ante recently. They're really trying to get those dead people in there to subscribe to being the dead thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, like you were saying, then, they have a proprietary claim on that franchise last name, and it goes back, here we can trace it to the Treaty of Amity, Commerce
and Navigation.
I knew that. Amity, Commerce, and Navigation.
1794.
Okay. Chemtrails must be a little thick today or something. So, they can't transfer it.
No. That's their property, and he's telling them, I'm your property, you can't transfer me or do anything with me. It's the same result.
They have ownership on the legal last name.
Absolutely. That's what their patent is on, is the description.
But then the other aspect of this then as well is that the unalienable rights only apply to foreign states.
Right.
And he's claiming to have unalienable rights, so he's claiming to be the fiction, and you say, no, I'm a free man, and all this stuff, and he's of dual mind.
Right, and free man is also another one of their patented products. Man is a legal creation itself. Free man, individual, female, male, those are all stocks. New species, new genus.
Patent and products stemming from the lexicon.
All the way back to the original letters patent. They have the letters patent on the fictional last names. That signifies that somebody's a new species. It's called a family name. It's a new genus.
But the dialogue of the Exchequer starts at 1180. Are you saying the stuff about the lexicon comes later?
No, it comes from the same incorporated state from forever.
But I thought letters patent came after the lexicon.
Only after the description.
So, guess it's neither here nor there, as they say, as the song remains the same, and it's one long big action, big act of plays throughout the centuries.
Absolutely.
But then bringing us back, home in the focus then, so he's claiming to have unalienable rights. He's claiming to be the fiction, which is the franchise last name, and then he's also claiming all this other stuff. I should probably nail that down a little better, but he's basically evidencing himself to be a dual mind and needing to be administrated under the law of infants.
Absolutely.
And he keeps claiming that last name. It's evidence right on his website, everywhere. I don't even know what his middle name and therefore what his proper name would be.
Right.
Never heard him speak of his middle name. Never heard him talk about the proper name.
No.
He keeps claiming the last name.
Right, which is only Clifford. It's Clifford. So it's a location. He's claiming to be a location, a fictional thing. It's Clifford. Clifford.
So in this story, let's see here, I'll just read some. Apologies for the lack of... Let me start again. Apologies for a lack of an update for a while. Much has been going on and up in the air at the same time. Dean Clifford is still currently being held in Brandon Correctional Center and has been since last November. His crimes? Choosing to live his life according to higher law and holding government accountable for their unlawful actions.
Right. Now you'd asked about the letters patent. They weren't called letters patent way back when. At the Assisi of Clarendon of 1166, they took all of the people, or the sheeple, that would patronize them according to the laws of the kings. It's always been the same thing over and over and over again. So in the first paragraph, it starts out, in the first place, the aforesaid King Henry, by the council of all his barons for the preservation of peace and observing of justice, has decreed that an inquest shall be made throughout the separate counties and throughout the separate hundreds, that's when they have the 100 courts, through 12 or more lawful men of the 100, which is a jury, and through 4 or more lawful men of each township, upon oath, that they will speak the truth, whether in the 100 or in the township there be any man who, since the Lord King has been king, has been charged or published as being a robber or murderer or thief, or anyone who is a harborer of robbers or murderers or thieves. And the justices shall make this inquest by themselves, and by the sheriffs by themselves. 2. And he who shall be found through the oath of the aforesaid persons to have been charged or published as being a robber or murderer or thief, or receiver of them, since the Lord King has been king, shall be taken and shall go to the ordeal of water, and shall swear that he was not a robber or murderer or thief or receiver of them, since the Lord King has been king, to the extent of 5 shillings, as far as he knows. Now, the third one, and if the lord of him who has been taken, or his steward, or his vassal, shall, as his sureties, demand him back within 3 days after he's been taken, he himself and his chattels shall be remanded under surety until he shall have done his law. It's the same thing over and over again. If you patronize it, it can do whatever it wants to you. If you call it the king, it can do whatever it wants to you. And calling it the king is using its last name. Subscribing to be a free man or a citizen or an individual, or asking for rights or benefits of the king, that means that's your king. You're calling that thing your father.
Even just by saying, for example, I'm Dean Clifford.
Absolutely, because he's subscribing as a citizen. That last name is not his. And
so it sounds nice on his face what he's saying here, hold accountable for their unlawful actions, but he'll never be able to do it as a citizen.
Right, never ever, because he's still patronizing them, and he asked for rights, and he asked for benefits, and he did a habeas corpus.
Right, I still get comments on that video.
Right, habeas, haber means to have. Habeas corpus means have the body. It means take me, I'm yours. And you saw in Rocco's case, we had to go through the process of the writ of precipice. You have to pick up a sovereign state with a sovereign state. You cannot say, I'm a citizen, I want my rights, and then give yourself over to somebody else and throw yourself upon the jurisdiction or within their jurisdiction with a habeas corpus. That's just giving yourself over as a plebeian, a vassal.
So it goes on here. Why hasn't the mainstream media mentioned anything about Dean's capture for months on end? If this was a legitimate freeman threat, freeman in parentheses, that has been quashed, wouldn't they be advertising this as a deterrent for those who subscribe to the freeman philosophies?
It is. Dean Clifford is being held in jail to teach other freemen to just keep on pushing on, keep following Dean Clifford, keep patronizing Dean Clifford, keep patronizing the state. Somebody filed a habeas corpus on Dean, so they're getting the results that they want.
Probably one of these guys mentioned here in the story, if not the guy who wrote the story himself, and is the administrator for the Dean Clifford YouTube account.
Right. It's sick. It's sick. Somebody gave Canada Dean's body.
Which was interesting when I commented there on his channel that he was more interested in invoking title than arguing the substance of what I'm saying.
Absolutely, and that's a good indicator of a CIA agent or FBI agent. You know, people who deliver others up aren't human. They're not out there for the best interests of humanity. They're not out there for anybody but number one, which is themselves.
And goes on, those philosophies aren't of those which the mainstream media have the public to believe, but for those who take the time to research. Anyone who understands them, such as do no harm, you'd have to be nuts or completely indoctrinated by the appalling education system and banker-controlled press not to want to support such ideas.
Right, so now they're making sheeple feel bad for not promoting Dean Clifford or donating to Dean Clifford. That's sick. That's sick.
Yeah, they seem to have latched on to one of the fundamental principles of the public law here, is to do no harm, but now as we go on more and more here, we see how they're not adhering to public law.
Right.
According to court transcripts, Dean is continuing to be held against his will without the Crown presenting a cause of action.
It is as per his will. Somebody filed a habeas corpus. That means have the body. So Dean's in there willfully, according to whoever filed the habeas corpus, and said it was under the Crown's jurisdiction, or whatever jurisdiction. That's what a habeas corpus is.
Dean was never presented with a warrant at the time of his arrest, nor was a proper warrant presented during a raid on his home prior to his November Hamilton seminar where he was abducted.
He's a felon for using a fictional last name. He's using and assuming a fictional name and address, which is a felony.
Right. In our U.S. Code, it's 18 U.S.C. 1342.
Right, which applies across the board because everybody's confederated.
It's confederated state where Congress got world dominion in 1941.
Right, and Canada has a lot of...
Well, yeah, Canada came right in on the Articles of Confederation.
Right.
The last article.
Right, and other treaties and other agreements, you know, they've got a major part of the grab for the Department of Transportation through that Bridges Trust, through the Bridges, Tunnels, and Turnpikes Act. And that was as late as 1998, I think. Somewhere around in there.
Yeah, well, it's really a sordid history.
It's just sick.
Also, according to the transcripts, the courts have repeatedly rejected Dean's court filings. In one case, because he didn't use the proper form and was told he could obtain the proper form on the internet, to which he has no access to.
That's okay. He's claiming the last name, so they're going to administer him as an infant. Make him use their forms. He can't step out of the box.
Can't get the forms because he can't get on the internet.
Right.
Can't get the internet because he's in jail. Can't get out of jail because he can't fill out the forms.
Right, and it's all...
Sounds like an Alice Cooper song.
Right, and it should be. We should contact Alice Cooper and ask him if he'll sing Dean Clifford song.
Can't get out of jail because I can't get no forms. Where was I? So... a source close to Dean has reported that there has been instances where people that work for either the RCMP or the military who have called up and inquired about Dean's situation have been told they have been flagged and then hung up on.
Yeah. Yeah, so all that is, you know, they're not going to help you, Dean, because you're part of their profit margin. They get paid for keeping you there.
Of course, the lower minions that answer the phone probably don't know this. They're probably just told to say this.
Right. Which is, it's all a joke. If somebody was standing up for Dean, they'd be doing other things other than filing habeas corpus.
So Dean Clifford has been in jail at Brandon Correction Center for over 157 days, over 5 months and some change and counting, and with the continuing delay tactics of the Crown, as evidenced by the court transcripts, there is no certainty as to if or when he will be released. The charges of firearm possession and the growing of cannabis is yet to be brought to trial, with many preliminary case management hearings and bail hearings and statutory provincial magistrate's court in conjunction with his own claims against the Crown in Queen's Bench.
Right, and what's going on is he's asking to be released. Maybe nobody wants to purchase him. Maybe he doesn't have a new renter or lease, or and that's something that's everybody needs to wrap their minds around. If you're asking to be released, you're asking somebody else to purchase you away from the other entity. So that means that you're fully involved in human trafficking. You don't want to be discharged, you want to be released. Where? And to whom?
So, wanting to file claims against the Crown, I take it the Crown is the equivalent of the federal state?
No, they're just putting on that presentation. They know that the Crown's not involved in this.
And Queen's Bench must be some sort of particular type of court setting, like equity court or whatever.
Right, it's the same thing that other shoes are claiming.
Another court under the Negotiable Instruments Act.
Right, and it's the same gimmick over and over again. And that, again, that's a good indicator that somebody's an agent.
He has been refused on every occasion to act as surety of the legal fiction or being in which the judiciary still carries on the presumption that he is, despite asserting he is not.
He already is. He's claiming the last name. That's a fiction. Now, if you go to the statutory law on that side, only a natural person can be the surety. He's claiming to be those things.
And he wants to be the surety.
Right, he wants to be the surety. And they're telling him, okay, stop screaming. You're just making a lot of noise. Kick back and relax. You already got what you wanted.
It has been mentioned on many occasions that the courts of the Provincial Crown have started that they have trust issues, must mean stated, that need to be discussed to cover the proceedings and costs. Could be because Dean refuses to sign off on any of their bullshit or consent to be an agent officer working for them. So they are having difficulty getting paid out of his trust.
That's another gimmick. He's saying that he's an employee. He's already claiming that last name. They already have the derivatives off of that fiction. They hold a patent on it.
Any trust that they're talking about, due to the evidence of what he's evidenced himself as, is only referring to a statutory trust, which is not a real trust at all.
No, it's a character of a trust, fiduciary.
And it functions in commerce.
Right. The actual Siskiyou Trust, you and I both know they were in the Massachusetts Land Trust, and those were all shoved into public utilities. Now look at what a utility is. It's Dean Clifford. It's anybody who's claiming to be a utility, a thing that acts, a thing that works, a utility, a thing to be utilized or consumed.
He says this is supported in the court transcripts as well, where such matters are discussed in a matter of words. It is quite possible all this is being hypothecated into large sums and therefore eating away at budgets. So he suggesting these absurd possibilities. Well, of course they are.
But he's claiming to be the matter, subject of matter. He's put himself in that position. I mean, this is so disgusting. The whole thing is creepy.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really creepy. Despite not respecting the UN or their authority or lack thereof, Dean has appealed to the UN, United Nations, for action on the human rights violations inflicted upon him by the Canadian and provincial governments, considering Canada is a signatory to their Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Officers at the jail blocked this letter. See attached letter below. And what's disturbing about this is that earlier you mentioned that John Lennon was
He was off because he was
after coming up against the
Brotherhood of Teamsters Union. And that is the Human Rights Commission. If you go to the Human Rights Commission, you'll find out right away that that is the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Union. It's all the same thing. The United Nations are all the corporations that are profiting off of Dean Clifford being in there. Why would it work to appeal to them? Oh, please stop administering me wrongly. Please administer me this way. I'll be your subjective matter. I know I'm using the last name. And you had told him about that prior to this. You had spoken to Dean Clifford.
I tried to. I mean, I posted stuff when he was still in. He'd stick his head in Skype every once in a while.
And they don't listen. And that's another good indicator that he's an agent. You know, if these people are that bullheaded to present such things, and then even after learning, you know, that's the greatest education is experience. And he's experiencing things just like Rod Class. Rod Class went in there on a guns charge, and now he's got more charges saying that he's basically terroristic. How do you do that unless you're an agent?
Well, he's telling us we need to think that 14th Amendment again.
Absolutely, and that's all for the corporations, the United Nations themselves.
So this letter attached basically is just more evidence of how they're administering him. It's let's see, Manitoba Justice to correspondent. Within a correctional facility is necessary to ensure that many normally harmless items are not received into the facility. I'm sure that you can appreciate our need to ensure that illicit drugs and other contraband unauthorized materials are not introduced into the institution. It is for this reason that we have to consider the following items as unauthorized when arriving by mail and delivered in person. There's a bunch of stuff on here, but they have to check, particularly mail from other correctional facilities is not allowed. From the immediate family as approved by the unit manager or designate and in consultation with the preventive security officer. And the other one is correspondence violating court-ordered non-contacts. So just basically there's limiting his contact here, it looks like.
Right, now from Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, 1891, cession, C-E-S-S-I-O-N, it's the act of ceding, a yielding or giving up, surrender, relinquishment of property or rights. In the civil law, an assignment, the act by which a party transfers property to another, the surrender or assignment of property for the benefit of one's creditors. Now this is the kicker here. In ecclesiastical law, a giving up or vacating a benefice by accepting another without a proper dispensation. Okay, now if you're claiming to be a free man, citizen, something on the land, inhabitant, resident, individual, and you're claiming any amount of rights, you've just acted as per cession. It's by your works and actions. You can say all you want to, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. But if you're acting under the doctrine of elections and you're claiming a right or a benefit, you're never going to get both. You're going to lose one. And by claiming a right or a benefit, you're never the heir. That becomes beneficium abstinendi, where you give up your right to be the heir because you want to be the beneficiary so bad. Everybody really needs to rethink what they're doing here. Absolutely. Because you have a bunch of shoes. Rod Class, you've got, who's that Bonaducci guy? Then you've got Dean Clifford, you've got Katie, you've got Curtis Kallenbach, you've got Donna Ray out there saying you should fill out the UCC1 form and stamp on the back that you're a special deposit. all of these things allow secession. All of these things allow secession. Allow that doctrine of election to be applied to you because you're electing something else as your government. You're not patronizing your own house. And you're claiming a patented product, which is that last name, or a title. Individual, man, woman, free man on the land, inhabitant, citizen. It doesn't matter what it is. If you claim any fictional thing, you're done. You lost. And then if you cry out because you don't like how you're being administered, you have to be administered more goodly according to the law of infants. Because here you are, you're patronizing a fiction, you're acting as a fiction. It doesn't matter what you say out of your mouth. You're acting as a fiction. And when you're acting as a fiction, it's the same thing as a child having an imaginary friend. You need to be protected under the laws of infants from harming yourself.
Well, they've been doing that. Well, Santos Bat is the only guru out there I have been able to evidence that he has all the information available on the foundation of the public law. In fact, I even remember getting the starter package done. Not that anybody ever does anything with it, but I got it done and up there before, just after I talked to him and then sent it to him.
Right.
He said, I don't know when I'll have time to get to it, basically.
Right. And then all of a sudden a whole bunch of stuff starts happening and the media's all there and everybody's all around.
He's going to offset his debt now. He's going to write this commercial instrument. He's got 6 months, I guess, for his next hearing, and
right.
He's going to offset it with this. He's going to probably use some without recourse or AIV or...
Right. All he's got to do is give him the Articles of Confederation, Article 12. I think every one of these little agent gurus should tattoo Article 12 of the Articles of Confederation on their forehead. That way there's no question that they've pledged themselves.
Oh God, don't say that. We'll probably get another batch of gurus that are going around teaching the Articles of Confederation, Article 12
It's ridiculous.
remedy.
Yeah, Article 12 remedy.
Okay, so back to Dean here. In addition to the tyrannical nature of these governments, the state has also moved to freeze or close Dean's bank accounts as well. The true damage will not be known until he is released, of course, and only then he can ascertain as to what is going on. But it is clear they are trying to cut off his finances from that angle as well, because family members and power of attorneys have been unable to clarify exactly what is going on, but it's clear they are trying to inconvenience him from paying his bills. Another thing also to point out is that it has been admitted by Dean's roommate, Boarder, that the RCMP used intimidation tactics to coerce him to allow entry into Dean's home and produced a warrant that appeared to be a fabrication. With no wedding, signature, or endorsement from the proper jurisdiction, Dean has commented that when he was given the opportunity to view the warrant, it did not grant permission to access the home on that stance also.
Okay, so he had a friend agent that let somebody in their house, and now they're trying to say that it was an accident and they were coerced into it.
Right.
Lots of people are coerced. Money, money, money.
Well, or just the guns, but the rubber stamp trick, we know they do that. That's the Confederacy in action. Rubber stamped all the way through every foreclosure we've ever seen, every eviction we've ever seen.
Right.
It's just rubber stamp, here's your gun.
Absolutely. But we've also seen how these agents work, and coercion is saving their own butts. Dean's roommate, Boarder, calls him roommate / Boarder,
was also facing various charges, but decided to obtain a legal aid government-issued lawyer,
Oh,
in which he was told not to attend these hearings at all.
Yep.
Now all charges against him had been dropped, and now he has moved out of Dean's home.
Of course, he's not an agent or anything. That's not Judas. You can't tell me that that's Judas.
You know, and whoever wrote this must be an attorney lover, because he calls him a lawyer.
Yes, that's just sick.
We're too nice in Canada to call them attorneys. We'll call them lawyers.
They didn't buy that guy off at all. His charges went away. He's disappeared. It's just a fluke, right?
Recently, on 25th March, Dean agreed to a bail hearing in which he shut down many presumptions from the Provincial Crown, in which during he discussed the terms and conditions for bail.
So he's contracted.
In the end, bail was denied.
Well, he's still contracted. He said they had jurisdiction to grant him bail. It's over.
There are other reasons as to why Dean agreed to a bail hearing, but for now, we can't disclose that.
No. No.
This hearing, which was one of the few open to the public, went on for over an hour. But they made sure to put on a good show, didn't they? The Crown prosecutor spoke, then Dean corrected the record, then the judge denied bail on primary and secondary grounds that he felt Dean doesn't respect the authority of a statutory court, and will most likely not honor his recognizance again.
Right. And that's because he's arguing statute. Remember the 1834 Nullification Proclamation?
1832 under Andrew Jackson.
Yep. And that one says that, if you try to argue statute or legislation, you're to be held in contempt of court. And that's what they're doing. They're saying, hey, look, you're in contempt of court. So we're just going to hold on to you to protect you from yourself.
Yeah, now the courts really up there came out of the same 1789 Judiciary Act.
Absolutely. It's a bank routing system.
And Canada is just a franchise that is articles, they're incorporated through Articles of Incorporation through United States Inc.
Right. The Articles of Confederation. And that means that they're a commercial enterprise. Criminal enterprise.
So Dean is having difficulties of either getting his things filed properly or documents certified by a notary.
Oh my goodness. So he wants to counter deed them anyway. So it has no effect. If he's getting them certified or stamped by a notary public, that means it's a counter deed. Whatever his original deed is or what his will is already countered at that point. And he's pushing to counter it. So again, he's an infant under the law of infants.
Think of it like this. The notary is registered through the state. And the notary's job is to certify it. It's a business transaction.
Right, it's a certified checking mechanism. The clerk is the monetary exchange unit in a court or bank. So anything certified goes to the banking system. It's like a certified check at that point.
On the 16th of April, Dean was allowed to leave the jail with sheriffs to drive him to a notary. Halfway there, they got a call and were ordered to turn around and take it back. On his return, his ability to call his one outside line of communication, his brother, was severed and revoked.
Ain't that the pisser? That's just terrible. Accidental everything. That's just terrible.
It appears he is being denied access to the tools he needs in order to obtain remedy.
Remedy, yeah. You don't want the cure, you want a remedy, right? Holy cow.
Make you feel better? Even at the hearings, he is denied access to a commissioner of oaths.
Oh my God, he's gonna demand their oath. They uphold their oath. Their oath is to discharge congressional bankruptcy using him as a special deposit.
I guess that's somebody you can go swear before or plead an oath before, and they're doing the same job as the notary.
Right. And it says he's just like Santos, demanding their oath. He's compelling them to honor their oath. Their oath is to discharge their duties.
Right.
They were the ones that were supposed to be taxed. When you compel their oath, you're telling them, okay, discharge your duties. You don't have any tax. Just use me as you see fit. And then couple that with a habeas corpus. It's like, take me, I'm yours.
Oh boy.
Sick.
On April 17th, 10 a.m., he was taken to the Manitoba Law Courts for Queen's Bench hearing. For a Queen Bench hearing, I think this writer meant to write, for his demand to show cause. The hearing was adjourned. Sine die in, which they are still going off presumptions.
Sine die, without a day.
Okay, so it should read, the hearing was adjourned, sine die, in which they are still going off presumptions.
Right, and it's without a day. You don't get to be heard because you're an infant. They have to speak on your behalf. It's the same thing that the Declaration of Independence did. It declared you in a pending state. So the Constitution is the Magna Carta sine die, without a day. It only changes or alters according to market conditions. Everybody's independent, and he's claiming his independence. In his thing here, he said he's the subject matter. He's claiming the last name. He's claiming that the ownership can't be transferred. Of course it can't be transferred. He's claiming the last name. All of these things are just so ridiculous. And then he's counterdeeding his stuff, and sick, absolutely sick.
Let's see here. Yeah, that is interesting because they've got everything they need. We don't need anything more from you, Dean. We got everything we need.
Right, you've already told me to administer you. We're administering you. You can stop screaming now.
Oh man. Let's see here. He was being seen as the legal fiction and referred to as a self-representing freeman.
Yes, that's what he is.
Their dean had his ground and stood up to them as he does.
He's just acknowledging the fiction. He's claiming the fiction.
Yes.
What does he want them to do? He's claiming to be the fiction.
Yeah, he's. There's no evidence here that he's using anything but the last name.
Right. I mean, free man and all of those other nice little fictions.
Self-representing political body or something.
Yeah,
I've heard him call himself.
Sick. Instead of a state of being. He's, human beings are just states of being.
It was clear that the judiciary were nervous and wanted the hearing to be over as quickly as possible and were very careful on what they had to say.
Yeah, I'm sure they had to be careful.
He is still being seen as the trustee.
How is that possible? That's his opinion. No wonder he's being treated like an infant. He's acting as an infant.
The docket reflected that with his last name spelled in all caps, and when it started, this is really just not well written, is it? The Crown went first. It was said by some who attended and witnessed the hearing that he did fantastic considering otherwise.
Well, I'm sure there was lots of agents there, like, CIA cheering him on.
Like seals?
Yeah.
Arr, arr, arr.
Now, the definition of counter deed in Black's Law 8th edition 2004 is a secret deed executed either before a notary or under a private seal that voids, invalidates, or alters a public deed.
Right. And that's why we don't use no stinking notaries. We don't need no stinking notaries.
Right, or any other seal other than your house. If you're not patronizing your own house and you're using their fictional last names, their fictional creations, their concepts, You're an infant. You have to be administered. You're a prisoner of war because you don't have a government since the 1929 Geneva Convention. And of course, you could follow that into the 1933 bankruptcy, and he's in the holding corporation, and he's claiming he's the subjected matter. He's not claiming anything other than that. I don't get why he's screaming. This is everything that he wants is happening. That's what he's asking for.
During the time Dean got to speak, he had much to say and only spoke for self-evident truths and quoted aspects of the true rule of law in historical references and maxims of law. Something of note, whilst there he quoted were Genesis chapter 1 verse 6, Deuteronomy chapter 19 verse 1, and Magna Carta 1215 AD section 39.
Well, there you go. Every one of that is subjugating him as a fiction. The Lord God created man in the human being's own image. He represented the human. And then it put him in the garden to dress it up. That means it's a fiction. Adam literally means man when you look at the etymology.
Doctrine of Thomas.
Yep. Nomenclature. To name all things down to their smallest iota. That's all it is. They named him. He's claiming to be Dean Clifford. That thing means that it's just a location, a description. But under their patent laws, they own those descriptions. They made those names. Nomenclature.
In the end, the judge, who still referred to him as Mr. Clifford, stated that Dean's claim had no basis in law. She refused to explain why and appeared to hurry things along as quickly as possible. The judge contradicted herself, saying she heard him but ignored everything in the same breath.
She has to. He's an infant, and she's the administrator, fiduciary that he's trusting. That's her function. She can't, if you have a crying baby, what do? You just console it, patronize it a little bit, rub its little belly, whatever.
Take it on a drive and saying you're taking it to a notary,
right.
And you get a call halfway there, he's got to come back and
I know.
say sorry, but you can't talk to anybody
right.
like your brother now.
Right. You missed your phone call, sad. But the cookie later will work, or whatever pacifier you got later works.
Oh boy. After that, Dean said, well, you just harmed me, and I need your name, in which she refused. Regardless, the judge's name was Karen I. Simonson. Following the hearing, other informations were faxed to him by his brother at 11:45 p.m. at Brandon Correctional Center that evening. However, although it is a document only 8 lines long, they may not forward him the fax, considering he is not allowed to contact anyone now. The contents of that letter has not been provided to anyone else, with the exception to those who intercept the fax. It is interesting to note that when you go to search on the court registry system between 2013 and 2014 with the surname Clifford, there is only one case. The current case Dean is being held for has all its entries under the same case back in February 2013, despite the case back then had to do with assaulting a police officer, policy enforcer, who involved a bit of a wrestle in a supermarket, parking lot, in which Dean claimed he had to do so to prevent harm from being done to him, as the officer was deranged. It is a shame we couldn't get a hold of the dash cam footage, as that would have been quite a show. Current charges Dean is being held for are unrelated and consist of the possession of an unregistered firearms and growing of a banned substance, cannabis, which was used to help a friend for medical reasons. On the registry system, it used to show it as a separate case entry, but now it is all filed under the same case, which seems odd. Perhaps there is something to look into there, as it looks as if when you search now, there is no cases from late November 2013 onwards, but it is all under the February 2013 stint. And then it lists current hearings from this year.
But if he was a sovereign state, he could come in and argue against that. You know, where's the cause? That's what a writ precipice is. He could have come in, somebody could have come in on as his governor. Nobody did that. They'd rather give his body over to the state. You know, and everybody needs to realize, you know, look, if you have an infant there that can't protect himself, has no idea who he is, who's going to protect him? You know, and one of his, quote, friends filed a habeas corpus for him, threw him right in there. And he's doing everything that he knows better than to do, according to that now, this update.
Their provincial magistrate courts are not courts. They're spelled T-H-E-R-E. I think he's meant the other T-H-E-I-R spelling. Again, it's hard to read this. It's hard getting into a groove with this guy's writing. But let's see, just about done. Let's see. So the provincial magistrate courts are not courts. The people they call judges in provincial magistrate courts are not judges, and they're owed absolutely no respect. They are not peace officers. Well, okay, well, we know they're not judges. We evidence that they are indeed attorneys, in my case, and others, that they only function as attorneys, not judges, because they never adhere to judicial canon, because they don't have to. They're under the 1789 Judiciary Act.
Right, they're banks, according to Black's Law Dictionary. And again, it goes back to the last name. If you want to be a deposit, claim that last name. Be a deposit. Because that's what's happening.
All people that enter them are either tricked to enter them, or they are forced into them by nothing more than a mall cop, goons, with no authority. Those who are against the will of the people are not owed any ounce of respect. They are private courts in which they do not see or acknowledge one's rights.
See, he's claiming his rights again. He's giving up his inheritance, claiming his rights. You gotta make up your mind, folks. Are you gonna be the heir, or are you gonna be a beneficiary, or are you gonna hold on to a fiction claiming rights?
This may seem inflammatory, but the actions of the employees and agents that work within them speak for itself, and it is conducted behind closed doors without witnesses when they are conducting themselves in a dishonorable fashion. No, they are acting honorably by discharging congressional bankruptcy using the special deposit.
Right. That he's claiming to be.
So they are honorable, actually, if you understand the term honor correctly. Dean's last hearing was on Thursday, the 24th of April in Provincial Magistrate's Kangaroo Non-Court at 10 p.m. May 2nd, there was talk about the trial starting, but nothing is concrete as of yet. So he's going to have a trial. It appears that their newest tactic is that they scheduled Provincial along with case conference side by side as a reason to keep people out of both. It's been pointed out that usually case conference hearings people cannot attend them, in which usually people are allowed in Provincial.
So he wants his allowance now. Give me my allowance, Daddy.
So for those that are in the area on either Monday 28th April or Friday 2nd May, you got the address, blah blah blah. It was confirmed prior to his phone privileges being revoked, he was still getting mail, but he can't reply. Perhaps only authorized persons can receive mail from him, such as his brother. He has stated on prior occasions he has really appreciated the kind letters he has received in the mail. Those who's like to send their regards, they can do so. And there's the address.